Okay, I'm back. You notice I didn't change clothes. It's been 17 hours. I haven't taken a shower, but I did change my socks. Just kidding. But first we have to do is think about the United States, if you follow along with the notes, is that America is a federal system. Originally, after the Revolutionary War, we fought a Revolutionary War to be independent from Great Britain, fighting against Mad King George. George Washington was our heroic leader. And after we won, we formed a confederal system. A confederal system is a series of political units that have something in common and are linked together. The trouble with the confederal system, why they're often unstable, is there's no strong central government. People like James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington worried about this. There's no strong central government. There were actually 9, 12, 13 units. What are we going to do? There was Shays' Rebellion, Whiskey Rebellion. Some states wanted to print their own money. Pennsylvania was talking about having 2 different languages. What are we going to do? So by 1787, they decided to meet in a hot Philadelphia summer and have what's called a constitutional convention. And in that hot summer, about 3 dozen people, world-class intellects, 2 dozen of them probably were Nobel Prize-winning intellects. John Kennedy once said, when a bunch of Nobel Prize winners were there in the White House, this is the greatest collection of intellectual talent that has ever been here, except for maybe when Jefferson dined alone. This is the kind of people we found in this country. A lot of them lived to be 80. A lot of them were really tall and athletic. They were like some alien species. They were really cool folks. Although Madison was pretty short. But he couldn't dunk a basketball, but maybe some of the other ones could. And they got together and they decided to come up with a model for a stronger central unified government, to have a capital. In this process, there were Federalists and Anti-Federalists. People who were nervous about having a strong central government. They said, we just got rid of Great Britain and King George. What are we going to do now? We don't need somebody over on our heads. And others said, hey, listen, unless we hang together, we're going to hang separately, which is what Benjamin Franklin said after the Declaration of Independence was signed. He said, we better hang together or we're going to hang separately. He always said the coolest things. And so they got together this hot Philadelphia summer, a conglomeration of intellectual talent probably greater than any time in the history of the world, maybe even greater than Athens, Greece, the original seat of democracy, where it was over hundreds of years. We had people like Plato and Aristotle, and they had toga parties with John Belushi, but that was a long time ago. And this intellectual talent, over 3 weeks, came up with a compromise that Gladstone, one of the prime ministers for Queen Victoria at the later part of the 19th century, said was the greatest collective effort of the human mind in the history of the world. And I may wave the flag a bit here, and it's imperfect, but our Constitution is really something. And I will say this, for those who wonder, there was no original intent. There was no strict constructionism. They disagreed about a lot of things. They came up with a compromise. But Madison did say, this document is something that can grow and change over time. It wasn't meant to be stuck back there in an era and never change over time, because Madison said things would change. Many of our founding fathers, although there was a desire by some to have an invocation of prayer before the first meeting, they were basically denied. Most of the founding fathers, although they personally might have been believers, they wanted to make it a secular affair. For those who think the Constitution was something tied to religion, it was as hyper-secular as can be. And we may talk about that in a little while. So they created a federal system with the capital of Washington, D.C. Now, most countries in the world are not federal. Some are confederal, like Switzerland, a real rarity. Most confederal systems aren't stable. The different units fall apart and spin off and secede. Most countries in the world, like France, nice map of France, Paris in the middle, are unitary. That means that the central government makes all the decisions. Sure, you may have the country divided into administrative units, but in the final analysis, everything is decided by the central government. And most countries like that are unitary, including Great Britain, sort of. But we're not. Each of these states has its own government, its own semi-autonomy, its own president called a governor in Wisconsin, with a House and a Senate, and there's a balance between the power of the federal government and the states. When push comes to shove, our Constitution has a supremacy clause, the federal government's more powerful. We had a debate about that again. The debate lasted 4 years and cost a lot of lives. So that's the difference between federalism and confederalism and unitary systems, as we're using these words for the rest of the semester on and off, so you get to know them now. Okay, I'll be back with a few more things.